The pile has grown. Today in the wood yard, lots more splitting and someone's picking up some wood. Here we go. So today I'm going to be doing a bunch of splitting back over that way, but before I did that, I brought up a bunch of wood that is red oak. I have a customer coming to pick up some wood. And the reason I did that is it was back in the corner, back there and back over there. And we got about 1.5 inches of rain last night, so everything is just like soup because the frost went out and the ground is super soft. You're just walking on it, you squish down with your feet. And I don't want to be driving the truck back there, so I just wheelbarrowed, I think, I don't know, like 4 or 5 wheelbarrows full up here, and I got another one because I don't know how much it is, so it's for a face cord the guy's going to be picking up. So I brought that up. And again, we're going to be doing splitting right over here in a little bit. But before I do that, I am going to address one of the questions that comes up over and over and over and over. I've talked about it a few times, but I thought I would just kind of cover it a little bit for those of you that want to know. So far this year, I have bought, let me see here, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I've bought 6 loads of wood just like this here. This happens to be maple, but I bought 1 of pine, 4 of oak, and this here is maple. I buy truckloads from a logger. They bring it up to me and unload it, and everybody wants to know how much is in a load, how much do I pay, how much wood do I get from it, all that kind of stuff. So we're going to talk about it here. So I just happened to bring out the invoices here so you can see, and I have covered up the names to protect the innocent, myself, the address and the name of the logger on here. But here's an actual invoice. These are 2 of them that I just got just the other day. This front one right here is for maple, so he's got his measurements on here for the how many feet and inches, height and width on the 2 trailers. So that's how many actual cords there was, 14.6. But then he took off 1/3 for voids because there was a couple rotten logs in here and a couple holes. So he does that a lot. He'll take off some for voids. So I paid 100, so it ended up being 14.3 cords. I pay 105 per cord. I think you guys can see that. And so it was $1,501 for that load, for the load that you're looking at right behind here. And then the load that's right behind the camera over there that I'm splitting on, that was a full load that I just got. You saw me cutting on that for the last couple days and splitting on it. So this load had 14.7. He took off 9/10 for rot because there were some rotten logs in there. And so it was 13.8, 105 per cord. And that's pulp cord, so it's 4 feet high, 4 feet wide, and 8 feet long. Actually, it's 100 inches. So I paid $14.49 for that one. So that's what it looks like on the slips. So he gives me these, and I have to send it back with a check to him to pay for the loads. And that's how it works. So here's the load that I just got. And in this load, in all loads in general, when I am cutting, the way to figure your cords of finished firewood is it's not the same as the pulp cords. So a pulp cord would be the 100-inch pieces, which is basically 8 feet, and then 4 feet high, 4 feet wide. But because the logs are crooked, because there's empty holes in there, and because there is some rot in there once in a while that gets cut away, and which is basically called shrinkage, you only get about 2.5 or so cords from, or face cords from a full cord. Here comes one of my friends, the Jets. It's going to get loud again. So when I'm cutting, you get less. Here comes a little, one of my Jets going into the airport. Get a lot of that. So about 2.5. Some people say 2 1/3, but it's about 2.5 is what you generally end up with. So if I get say I get a load of 15 cords, just take an easy number, so 15 pulp cords, and if I cut it for firewood and put it into full cord piles where it's 4 feet wide, 4 feet high, 8 feet long, stacked of cut and split wood that I'm going to sell. So I say there's 15 full cords, pulp cords, so multiply that times 2.5. ends up being, it would be 30, and then half of a 15, so it would be like, say, 7. So like 37 38, somewhere right in that range. Cords is what I end up getting. Face cords, that is, for the wood. So there you go. That's all I know. Now we're going to get back to splitting. Well, I'm back over by my splitter. We're going to start up in a minute, but I thought of a couple things I should mention about the loads that I get. Pretty much always it's about $105 per pulp cord. I have paid as low as $80, but that was a load of white pine that I got that he gave me a pretty good deal on. I paid 80 bucks for that. For pine, I generally will pay less. But most of the hardwood is almost always 100, 105. Usually pay more for the longer distance they have to bring it. So if it's real close by, you can get it for like 95 bucks. I got one guy that I buy from once in a while, but he doesn't have wood all the time. I usually pay $95 to $100 to get his wood, but he's real close by, whereas the wood I get from John comes from a ways away, so I do pay a little bit more for it. That's a pretty common price, right around there. The biggest load I ever got was a load of white pine that he brought earlier this year. Last year, well, yeah, it would have been like last fall. I think I got it sometime like in November, December, and that load had 18 pulp cords on it. That's the biggest load I ever got. The smallest I ever got was a load that had 12 cords on it. And the reason some of the loads vary, depending on where they're going, that's all they've got, or depending on road conditions. Like right now, the bans are on all the roads that are state roads and county highways. They're posted, so they can't drive with heavy loads on those roads. They can only take small loads. So the loads will be smaller then. But then once the load limits are lifted, once the frost is out and everything settles down and the ground firms up, then they can haul bigger loads. But in the wintertime, the limits are off. They can haul real big loads then. So anyway, here we are. Time to split. Alrighty then, I thought I'd do a little voiceover here because I'm just splitting wood, nothing spectacular, and there's some things about when I do split that I thought might be interesting to some of you. So first most important thing is I wear gloves all the time. Whenever I don't wear gloves, I get slivers, and when I wear my earmuffs that I just put on there, that's a radio headset, I'm tuning it in right there, but I wear earplugs also, and then I turn the radio on just so I can barely hear it. And then I get the tunes jamming, and there you go, and then I start splitting. So the piece that I just split there looks like it was a really dry one. I'm going to throw that over my shoulder. There it goes, over to the pile. And the reason I'm throwing those pieces over there is that particular round was extremely dry on the inside. And a lot of times when you see those gray ones with no bark, and when I lift them up from the pile, I can tell they are dry. And I always look to make sure, and then I'll throw those over into a pile that can then be sold right away. And a good, sometimes on a load like this, a good 10% of the wood, if I'm buying dead standing barkless wood like this oak was, it is dry and it is ready to burn right away. I've tested it on the inside with a moisture meter, and the moisture meter, it'll be in the teens quite often, especially the smaller pieces. So I stood that piece up on end. What I'm trying to do is get like a triple split out of it, trying to use the 4-way. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And I do that quite often with a piece that is from a bigger chunk that I had a split. I'll stand it up on edge just to split it, an additional split, and so it's not just a 2-way split, so it's a 3-way. Now the reason I'm throwing those pieces over my shoulder out of the way there is the pile that is right next to the splitter there off the end is really stiff, and if I was to let the pieces pile up, the splitter would move and then it wouldn't have any room to go into the pile. That looks like a dry one right there. Yes, it is. So I throw that over to the side there, and then the next one looks like a dry one too. A lot of those little ones like that are dry, which is really nice because I don't have to stack them, I don't have to store them, I don't have to do anything. I just throw them into a pile, throw a tarp over them, and then when I get an order, I just go right to that pile, load it up, and deliver it. So when I get a medium-sized round like this one right here, I'll throw the smaller pieces off, and then I'll split the bigger ones down just a little bit farther so they're smaller pieces and chuck them out of the way. So see how I held that one up a little bit, so I was trying to get a double or a triple off of that one, probably trying to get more smaller pieces out of it. And there's one again, I'm standing up to try to get a triple out of it, so I get 3 pieces instead of just 2 by laying it down. And then just chucking them out of the way, and there's another little piece. I'm just going to split that one down a little bit finer. So there you go. There's some splitting action. Now we're going to speed things up a little bit. We're going to crank out some some volume here. Here we go. So I thought while I was loading wood here for the customer with a little bit of background music just for you, I would talk a little bit about customer service. There's a lot of different ways you can service customers. Number one is just returning their calls as fast as you can. This guy called me and said he was interested in getting some wood and he wanted to know if I could deliver it in a couple days. I said sure. He said that he was going to be driving to my town, and he's from a town about 40 miles away, to pick up some stuff and wondered if I was going to be there. I said, well, sure. He said, well, could I pick it up? I said, absolutely. So he was already on his way, and he said he'd be there like in a half an hour. So I quick got some wood from down in the low area and brought it up so it was ready for him, so we didn't have to drive down into the muck. And then just like when I unload at their houses, here I'm loading into his truck, I jump right up in the truck and I do the stacking for him because I want to make sure he gets the right amount of wood. He has a short box there, so we did 3 full rows and then we filled in the back with another like a half a row, and that basically is a face cord or a third of a cord. And then of course we took some breaks and did some talking, just kind of some chit-chatting, and that I do a lot of times to people. Ask them about what they're doing, where they're going, how's life, where they're going on vacation, how the kids are, that kind of stuff. And it's good to remember those things because people really like that. So just talking to people and getting to know them is real important. So now we're going to get to doing some fast work. Here we go. The pile has grown. I think I'm past halfway, easily past halfway, because this is a lot bigger pile here that I'm standing on than the pile that's over there. So I split for, I don't know, 2.5 hours, something like that today is all. Had a bunch of other stuff to do, but I did a bunch of splitting. See if I can get off of here without dying, because climbing down a pile of loose logs is kind of like skiing. So there is the whole pile. On this side is the split stuff. I pulled out the round hollow logs there, and I'm going to save those for some other purpose. There's still a lot of wood here yet, though. I can see quite a bit. So I covered the splitter up, and I'm done splitting for today. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being here. If you hit the buttons, that'd be great. Appreciate you watching. Between now and tomorrow, get outside, do some cutting. Good night, Irene.